Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Not long ago, and you will hear President Trump, former future President Trump, you will hear legal scholars talk about this. Not long ago, Stormy, Miss Daniels, owed future President Trump $300,000, $120,000 to $300,000. This is an NPR article. Donald Trump wins $120,000 from Stormy in failed defamation suit. A federal judge ruled in favor of the former president on Tuesday. So that was just one. There's one article of $300,000. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. In fact, I'm going to show you exactly why you might very well get one very courageous person in New York who says, yeah, without a shadow, he's not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. First of all, he's not guilty at all. But you're going to need a unanimous decision, and the cast of characters here, you'll hear right now, the key witnesses despise one another and have contradicted one another. Here's one example. Hit subscribe right this second. If you want to read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Become part of my Patreon. That'll be below. To my super chat, thank you.
For years, Mr. Cohen has acted like he is above the law. He has considered himself and openly referred to himself as Mr. Trump's fixer. He is played by a different set of rules, or should we say no rules at all. He has never thought that the little man, or especially women, and even more women like me, mattered. That ends now. My attorney and I are committed to making sure that everyone finds out the truth and the facts of what happened, and I give my word that we will not rest until that happens.
So, not only did Ms. Daniels fail to win a defamation suit against Trump, which, by the way, apparently in New York was a federal judge, but because it's former and future President Trump, and Democrats have leveled courts against this man, and every single statute they can, they're so afraid of him becoming an authoritarian, a totalitarian, they want to imprison him. The good liberals, the good morally superior liberals, are so afraid of him becoming a tyrant that they want to imprison their direct political rival for hundreds of years. But anyway, while they actively suppress and defend criminality on their side. But anyway, you heard Stormy contradict Michael Cohen. That, ladies and gentlemen, should be enough to at least get one person. And by the way, to my members on this channel, thank you, Gloria. Thank you. Everybody here, thank you. To the members, thank you. Big Dog, thank you so very, very much. Nicholas Orm in Australia, thank you so much, as always. But so you have a defamation suit that a judge tossed. You have Stormy right now, I just showed you, eviscerating Michael Cohen. And then you have a very, very interesting legal scholar, or I should say, very interesting discussion by Andrew McCarthy, former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy. Hit subscribe right now.
Stake. Andy, always good having you. 34 counts here that are in question. And again, most of it having to do with falsifying, hiding business records and the like. I'm just wondering whether there's a great deal of redundancy in the counts in the first place, whether they overlap. I mean, the odds of escaping conviction on all of them seem pretty high, but what your thoughts?
Well, it's tremendous redundancy, Neil. In fact, it's just a kind of charging practice of stacking counts and turning one offense into multiple offenses that if you're in the Justice Department manual actually instructs federal prosecutors not to do. What Bragg has done here is take one potentially misdemeanor violation of the business record falsification statutes and turned it into 34 felony counts. The way he does that is this one transaction, this one repayment of $130,000 was paid in, I think it was 11 installments. He's taken, with each one, there was a invoice supplied, a book entry, and a check cut. Instead of just charging it as one big scheme, he's charged each piece of paper, each of those three things with respect to all 11 installments as separate felony counts. So instead of having a misdemeanor, what you have is 34 felony counts that could result in over a century of imprisonment in theory.
You know, I'm just wondering, Michael.
To give you some background, the Clinton Foundation, wonderful, wonderful philanthropic organization, definitely not linked to arms deals and to billions in Haiti and to uranium sales, definitely at all, not linked at all. Definitely books haven't been written about potential criminality, is located, I believe, in that state or headquartered there. They investigated for 2 seconds. They found no evidence of wrongdoing. But they're going after Trump, and they want to imprison him for hundreds of years with all these indictments, while rampant criminality. You'd have to be stupid not to think that there's pay-to-play schemes with Hunter and Joe and others. And it's like unbelievable. The entire planet knows what's going on, but anyway.
Cohen is key to this, of course, the so-called former fixer for Donald Trump. If you're the defense, you really want to go after him and rip him to pieces, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was just 2 weeks ago, Neil, that a federal judge in New York who has Cohen's case there, he's still under post-sentence administration from when he did the 3-year sentence in connection with some fraud and tax counts some time back. The judge found that he either committed perjury when he pled guilty in the federal case, or he committed perjury when he testified in the recent civil fraud trial in New York, or possibly both. So that's just 2 weeks ago, and he had kind of a spotted record even before that.
You know, so many of these felony counts, if they reduced or they could work out, I'm talking about the Trump defense team, to misdemeanor counts that don't carry nearly the weight or certainly nearly the potential of jail time. How would a strategy like that go?
So here's what I think I would do. If obviously you have to see how the trial goes, but if I'm Trump and the Trump defense, what I'm going to do is ask for a lesser included offense instruction to be given to the jury. Here, the misdemeanor count is falsification of business records. The greater felony charge is falsification of business records to conceal another crime. What I want is a jury instruction that says if they don't find Trump was trying to conceal another crime, they can convict him on the misdemeanors. The reason I'd be asking for that as Trump's attorney is that the misdemeanor count has a statute of limitations of 2 years. If that's all they convict him of, that count lapsed in 2019. So then you could argue
this will all be overturned if indeed he gets convicted, which he likely will. But I mean, you know what? There can be one courageous, honorable person with integrity that says, nah, no. You know, New York and other major Democratic-run cities, you have people committing serious, serious felonies out on bail. And they want to go after a former president where we had record low poverty and record highs in household median income. The only reason people don't like Trump is because media doesn't like Trump. The average person who despises Trump worships media, and they don't even know it. They think that they're intelligent and independent, but they're so influenced by media. Okay? The person who votes for Trump or likes Trump's, at least can acknowledge that he did a good job, is truly an independent person. Truly a person that stands on his or her own 2 feet. Because you don't need, if you just despise Trump and the only thing you say is a bad person, there are worse individuals, one in the Oval Office right now, than Trump. Much worse. Trump is actually a very good human being. Why would you endure 24/7 negative media coverage if you didn't love the country? You think any Democrat would do that? They would retire or quit in 2 seconds if they had endless media coverage and they were indicted every 2 seconds. Not Trump. So, You hear people, does Trump really care? Yeah, he does care about the average American. That's why we had record low poverty with Trump. That's why he has to battle 24/7 negative media coverage. Whereas most Democrats, if they experienced what Trump experienced, would never be in office. They would never even want to run for office. But all of this will be overturned, ladies and gentlemen. This is not rocket science. This will all be overturned. If indeed he gets convicted. And again, these are misdemeanors where the statute of limitations means that there's no penalty.
That the case ought to be thrown out on that ground.
Is he up that as the former president? I mean, this is the most liberal of liberal cities, and I'm sure they can find 12 jurors, but the odds of finding 12 who would be sympathetic to the president's view, the former president's view, I don't know how that process goes, but in this city, I imagine that would be a little difficult.
A little difficult, Neil, but let's also factor in the guy who really needs 12 is Bragg, right? What Trump needs is 1.
Good point.
Because a mistrial for him would be a major victory. If the jury were to hang in this case, I think that would be spun politically, and in fact, it would be legally a real coup for him. And I wouldn't just write off Manhattan because someone like Alvin Bragg gets elected in Manhattan. The number of people who actually vote in those elections is vanishingly small compared to the number of potential jurors in Manhattan. Okay. And yeah, I'm not saying Manhattan's anything but a blue borough, but Trump lost Manhattan probably by 2-1, maybe a little bit more than that. Having 30% of 2 million people who are potentially, in your corner, so to speak, or at least people who are open to your case. If you're a defendant and you just need 1, that's not inconceivable by a long shot.
Yeah, you hit on it. All it takes is 1. So we'll watch.
There are a lot of New Yorkers who love Trump. There are a lot of people in New York, New Jersey. There are a lot of people in Oregon. There are a lot of people in California that love Trump. Okay, the loudest, most obnoxious people in media or in politics claim that Trump is a horrible human being, as they vote for horrible human beings on the Democratic side. But there's a lot of support for Trump, even in liberal. Look at Minnesota. Look at the polls in Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? You can look, ladies and gentlemen, the polls in Minnesota, he's only down by 2 to 3 points. That's within the margin of error in Minnesota. When was the last time a Republican won Minnesota? It's been a while. So, this is why people love Trump. Listen to this right here.
One of the leading drivers of Biden's inflation disaster is his war on American energy, and Pennsylvania energy is a big problem. He's done everything wrong. Think of it. We've been in this mess together for 3.5 years. Only a little more than 6 months until that most important day in the history of our country, November 5th. Think of that. But what has he done that's good? Nothing. Has anything that he's done turned out? Everything he touches turns to shit.
I mean, we were looking potentially at a landslide victory. Biden is such an unmitigated disaster that even late-night comedians, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, Saturday Night Live, Robert De Niro, Hollywood, he has an entire American political establishment. The Washington Post, not one Trump supporter. New York Times, not one. They're all liberal Democrats. MSNBC, CNN, New Yorker, Atlantic, Rolling Stone, Vanity Fair, Esquire. They used to have BuzzFeed. They used to have Vice. I mean, every major publication, Los Angeles Times, all the major newspapers, not one Trump supporter. And still, he's up in the polls. Think about that. The man is running, if you like football, if you like the NFL Combine, he's running a 40-yard dash with a 100-pound backpack called American media. And he's still defeating the sleepy one, mashed potato brains. Think about that. People should think about exactly what Trump has to deal with. Okay? People should think about the competitive advantage that Democrats have that Trump does not enjoy, and still he's up.
Under Biden, gasoline prices are up over 50%, and electricity prices are up 39%, rising 13 times faster than under the previous, 13 times faster than under the previous 7 years. When I'm back in the White House, we will end Joe Biden's inflation train wreck, and we will tell Pennsylvania, drill, baby, drill. Get back to drilling.
Then you have Democrats or liberals or progressives saying, drill, oh my God. Biden has been begging other countries in the Middle East for oil. And then he released strategic petroleum reserves, millions of barrels. But again, you have to understand, the morally superior among us, a lot of wonderful liberal Democrats, they're very intelligent, but they lack wisdom and they lack knowledge. They don't know. If you were to tell the average person voting for Biden, and you were to say, look, actually don't, there was a wonderful comment said, you know what, H.A. Goodman, I disagree with you. You should debate people. That's if you want to deal with the apoplectic, hysterical response of the wonderful, morally superior Democrat. Okay, that's your decision. I view all my viewers as people I care about. So for somebody that I care about, I would say don't waste your time debating anyone who thinks that he or she is morally superior because they vote for a morally inferior Democrat. But I would say if you were ever confronted with, he took us out of the Paris Climate Accords. Biden has done worse for the planet than Trump ever did. He released millions of barrels of strategic petroleum reserves, then complained after he prevented oil companies with executive orders that he then turned his back on because they weren't working. Then he said, it's American oil companies' fault. He wants American oil companies to drill more, Biden, after he told them they can't drill more. Okay? He signed an executive order saying you can't drill on all these different lands within the U.S. Then he reversed the executive order. Then Democrats are upset with him for reversing his initial executive order because all of his policies don't work.
Under my leadership, we had energy independence, and soon we would have had energy dominance. We were going to be dominant. We were bigger than Russia. We were bigger than Saudi Arabia. And then he stopped. But then he started again. He went back to Trump policies because the price started going up so high. But the day after the election, first of all, if he wins, our country is going to be destroyed. The day after the election, if he wins, he will stop drilling and he'll go back to wind. Does it work? He'll go back to all sorts of things that don't work. And they've proven that. When it comes to Biden, he launched an extremist crusade actually to smash oil and gas, but Pennsylvania is one of the big oil and gas, largely due to me. He wanted to smash it. Biden has imposed a savage natural gas export ban that's putting countless Pennsylvania jobs at risk. He's risking your lives. He's risking your jobs, but he doesn't.
With all due respect, if you're watching in Pennsylvania or Michigan, why on earth would you vote for Biden? Why? The Democrats are literally telling you they don't want the American auto industry to prosper. Unless everyone drives an electric vehicle, which ain't going to happen. They don't want fossil fuels. They're telling you this. Why would you then? I don't get it.
care because all he cares about is the Green New Scam, the Green New Deal, the Green New.
By the way, not one Democrat is talking about the Green New Deal. Not one. Because they're embarrassed of it. Because they realize that maybe 10, 12% of America's energy, not even 10, it comes from renewable energy. Okay? Around 90% comes from oil and gas. And I, ladies and gentlemen, H.A. Goodman, was a fool. I was a fool 8 years ago. I thought that Bernie Sanders, I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders is the most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. But I was like a very good, progressive, liberal Democrat, same type of, I was an ignorant person, like many people on the left are very ignorant. I thought banning fracking would be good. Would it be the worst thing to do? It would be the absolute worst. It would be an unmitigated disaster. You'd have to take out a home loan just to heat your home. And so, again, I didn't think of these things. I was intelligent, but I lacked wisdom when I was on the left. People who are liberal Democrats, they're very intelligent people, but they lack oftentimes wisdom. Foreign policy, domestic policy, economic policy, they're into policies, but their policies stink. That's why poverty is up under Democrats. Poverty was at an all-time low with Trump, and yet Democrats look at themselves in the mirror and say, everyone loves us. We care about poor people. You care so much, you've made people poorer. So it's like unbelievable. But anyway, let's continue.
New scam. The Green New Scam, one of the biggest hoaxes. Biden's also trying to abolish gasoline-powered automobiles and force everyone into an all-electric car. But I have good news for you, all of you that love those trucks. He wants to make your truck all-electric, too. No more gasoline-powered. On day one, I will terminate Crooked Joe's insane electric vehicle mandate. God. Day one. That's going to
Trump did more for the country, to benefit the country, than all of President Obama's administration and all of Biden's administration. You look, and we had record low poverty, record highs in household median income. He brought Americans home with the Doha Agreement that he negotiated that Biden reluctantly abided by. He didn't want to abide by that. First president to step foot in North Korea to begin détente between North and South Korea. At least in world history, there has been a president to step foot in that country. That's a good thing. With Biden, there's zero emphasis on peace deals. Zero. Only invasions and catastrophes. We see what's taking place right now. An absolute unmitigated disaster in terms of foreign policy. And all of these terrible, terrible events, atrocities that took place last October, atrocities, crimes against humanity that the left ignores, would never have taken place with Trump. Never. Then you wouldn't have an invasion in Europe with Trump. Because Trump would focus on peace deals, and he would send a message, very simple message, to anyone who wanted to destroy the Abraham Accords, for example. You engage in that, we're not going to give you any political alliance or benefit in some way. I mean, I'm speaking in roundabout terms, but, it is what it is. Trump is better for the world, better for the country. If you don't understand that, you're probably just focused on media. You probably get all your information from the sensibilities within mainstream media. You say, Trump is a bad person. He's a better human being than Biden or President Obama or Bush. Much better. He didn't destroy a country. President Obama did with Libya. So did Biden and Clinton. Tell me a country that Trump destroyed. How about none? I'll give you a list of countries with Bush, Biden, and President Obama. And then they get these pictures with Clinton and Biden and Obama. It's like, oh, look, Oh, look at all these former presidents. They don't like Trump. Yeah, that's why Trump is so beloved by people, because he's not like the one-party presidency of all the former presidents that just didn't care about sending Americans or anywhere in the world, and their foreign policy was an unmitigated catastrophe. But you know what? It is what it is. Like I say, that's what I'm saying. Like, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's why. What can I tell you? You know, it's like, I just don't debate anybody. There's no point in. If you want to, go ahead, but there's just at work, family, dinners, get-togethers. There's no point in debating. There's just no point in debating anybody. I don't know. I mean, Paul Bartlett in Australia, I love you. Everybody here, there's just no point in speaking to people who are such ideologues. If there's a human being out there that's going to disown friends and family, or not speak to a friend, a lifelong friend or family member, because of their voting for Trump, that person might be a good human being, wonderful person, but you know what? That's a character flaw. That's a deficiency in character. That's a lack of integrity. Because you've convinced yourself that Trump is so immoral, you're willing to vote for somebody infinitely more immoral in Biden and others, who send Americans off to never-ending military conflict, who cause chaos and catastrophe with their foreign policy. The reason the world is imploding now is because there's zero vision. There's no vision. What does Biden see in the world? What does he see? Can he see outside of, what does he do every day? What is his vision? Democrats govern through media, through Hollywood, through ideology, fleeting ideology. They don't have any goal, objective that they want to achieve. Trump did. He wanted peace in certain regions of the world. We would have had peace, but he was mean. He said mean things on Twitter, so therefore the world is imploding. Don't you understand? That's how it goes. People are willing, ladies and gentlemen, a great many Americans and people around the world are willing to sacrifice the safety and sanity and tough it out. Thank you. They're willing to sacrifice the entire planet because you're told that Trump is mean. He's mean. He's a very boorish person. Therefore, we should risk complete annihilation with nuclear armament because Trump is mean. This way, when it's like Armageddon. Well, at least we didn't have mean tweets. That's the mentality of the average morally superior among us. But anyway. This is interesting.
Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett wrote about it on foxnews.com. Here to explain it now. Greg, your thoughts, barring a last-minute reprieve, the show starts Monday.
Yeah, and Trump is fighting for a fair trial, Brian, and an impartial jury. That's his constitutional right under the Sixth Amendment. But in Manhattan, as you say, the deck is stacked against him. You've got a biased judge, a jury pool dominated by Trump-hating New Yorkers. He's right, I think, to demand that the trial judge recuse himself because his adult daughter has a vested interest in her father's case. She runs a Democrat consulting firm that solicited tens of millions of dollars by citing her father's case. She has a financial interest in the outcome, and under ethical rules, that's a disqualifying conflict of interest. And Trump's other challenge is based on immunity, which is, of course, under review by the U.S. Supreme Court. Some of the allegations and evidence against him in the New York case took place while he was president. Why not wait until the high court decides that issue? Oral arguments are in just a couple of weeks, but there is a rush to convict Trump in advance of the election.
Right. So you say...
By the way, he's going to get a very, very monumental victory with immunity. All he needs is partial immunity. All they have to say is Trump he was allowed to perform a speech. End of story. Done. It even affects, I believe, the hush money case. I believe. Look, they indicted Trump with statutes they would never use. You can use bribery and graft statutes right now against Hunter and Joe. But the standard of proof is you want an admission. Democrats demand absolute categorical proof without a shadow of a doubt, even before indictment. And with Trump, they just throw everything at him, and you know what? If it sticks, fine. That's why they try to ban him in Colorado. It won't stick. It'll be overturned, but you have obvious graft and bribery with Hunter and Joe. That's why 50 intel officials came out of nowhere and said, oh, there's a plot by the Kremlin. So, I mean, it's really funny, too, because there's no left in America. The left thinks, there are people who believe that they're going up against the system. The entire left is the system. That is the system in America. The renegade, the cool hero here is Trump. He's the protagonist in this story called American Politics in 2024.
He's accused of falsifying company records to hide the nature of payments to his former lawyer as it relates to Stormy Daniels. This is something that they had to extend the statute of limitations to try and upgrade the charge from misdemeanor to a felony. Now, do you think that President Trump's legal team is up for the challenge? Could they be ready to defend the president in a way that could convince at least one juror?
Well, I would hope so. I think they're a fine team of lawyers, and their argument is quite valid. Paying somebody for silence is not a crime. So, instead, the DA, Alvin Bragg, accuses Trump of falsely accounting for it. At best, that's a mere misdemeanor, as you point out. That was barred long ago by the statute of limitations. So Bragg is trying to circumvent that by twisting the law and claiming, oh, it's an illegal campaign donation and thus a felony. No, it's not. The Federal Election Commission concluded it doesn't qualify as a campaign expenditure. The Department of Justice said, hey, there's no crime here. Alvin Bragg doesn't care.
Right.
He's decided to charge Trump criminally, even though he has no authority as a local prosecutor to charge federal crimes in a federal election.
Greg, just do this. Look at this trial. See the 76-year-old CFO of Trump Organization back in Rikers while illegal immigrants shoplift and ransack stores, beat up cops. No one gets charged for him, cannot be penalized. Trump and his looks around the country.
I think they're, delusional. These indictments all have one common denominator, Brian. They're politically driven. And Americans see this for what it is, an abuse of our legal system meant to interfere in the presidential election. But polls show it's backfiring, only solidifying Trump's support. And voters see him really as a villain. Not as a villain, rather, but as a victim of unscrupulous political enemies who are weaponizing the law. So, we'll have to wait and see how it turns out.
More.
What can I tell you? Be here this week, all throughout the week. It's going to be a great week. They're going to try. They might very well convict him, which would be hilarious, because they're gonna be like, oh, he's convicted. Oh, he's a felon, convicted felon. Woo! And then it's gonna be overturned. Wah, wah, wah. And again, you're looking at people who are the true despots, authoritarians, totalitarians. If they cared about law and order and the rule of law, then they would have indicted Hunter and Joe and others. Okay? They didn't indict Clinton or Hunter or Joe because they actively defend criminality within their own political party, while pretending that Democrats that actually ran on convicting Trump are doing so because of the rule of law. Again, they are afraid that Trump's going to be a totalitarian. They're the ones trying to imprison him, which is really hilarious. He's going to win. We're going to have the best live stream, one of the best in all of YouTube, on November 5th. It's going to be one of the most important days in American history. Okay? I care about what's good for this country as an American. I don't care about ideology. I went from Bernie Sanders to Trump because I care about what's good for this country. So, if Biden was doing a great job, then I would vote for Biden, but he's not. It's been an unmitigated disaster during this presidency. So, Trump will win, and we'll have a much better economy, much better foreign policy, and of course, Democrats and media will, oh my God, they'll melt down as always. But the country, thank God, will choose a much better president. We had a much better president in 2019 than what we do now. And more people lost their lives from you know what in Biden's first year. Anyway, hit subscribe. God bless you all. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow evening. Maybe even tomorrow during the day. But I'll definitely see you in the evening. Be here at 10 p.m. Eastern.